Something awful is happening in Morefolk. By Icy Dice. Ladies and gentlemen of Morefolk, you must all be terribly confused. I've sent this message to your emails and your phones, which took quite a lot of time, so please listen to me. As you're all aware, there have been a series of murders in this town of ours. Murders that have, up until this point, had their details kept private. For the sake of investigation, as our police department puts it, the specifics of these crimes have been kept under wraps. Bullshit. All of it. It's all a load of bullshit. Our police aren't keeping this information secret for the security of the investigation. They're doing it out of cowardice. Isn't it strange that even in a small town like this, where everyone is connected, no one seems to know anything about the recent deaths? Ellie, Sasha, Claire, Jackie, all taken away from us. Yet nobody has anything to say. Do you seriously believe that the husbands of the pregnant women that were slaughtered are keeping quiet because they're too traumatized? Or perhaps they keep quiet due to some kind of non-disclosure agreement they have with the police, right? Wrong. All wrong. The police have bribed and bullied the husbands of the victims into silence. It's come to my attention through my own investigation that this goes deeper than just the police force. They're being ordered around by an agency that remains unnamed, even within the files I've managed to crack. All this is to say, this situation is much more than it seems on the surface. After finding what I've dug up, it's obvious to me why they're trying to keep the husbands quiet. You know what? Fuck that. I never trusted these damn cops. I knew something suspicious was going on. You all have a right to know the truth. Below is a leak of the transcript containing some very interesting information. The police force is going to lie to you. They're going to tell you what I am about to expose is purely fabricated. They're cowards, all of them. I dare you to look into their eyes as they lie to your face, and tell yourself that you trust them. With that being said, allow me to grant you the real truth. Start of transcript. The two people within the transcript are Detective Casper and Mr. Middleton.
Alright, the date is February 17th, and it's 8:45 a.m. My name is Detective Casper. Everything from here on out is on the record. Mr. Middleton, I appreciate your willingness to speak about what happened last night. Typically, we wouldn't handle things this way. We'd have you cleared psychologically first, and this session wouldn't occur for a while longer. Unfortunately, this isn't a conventional situation. I hope you understand. Yeah, I do. That being said, your voice is shaky and your eyes are still red. You okay? Can you do this right now? Do I look okay to you? I'll be okay when that crazy bitch gets executed. You hear me? I hear you, and I promise you, the more help you give us, the closer we'll get to delivering justice. You're doing a brave thing here today. I hope you know that. Monster. I'm not fucking brave. I couldn't do anything to stop that goddamn monster. I'm not brave. I'm angry. I just want that thing dead. I know. I would too. Trust me. You keep referring to the suspect in rather inhuman terms. Why is that? Was the suspect wearing a mask or some other form of concealing clothing that made them appear less human? You aren't gonna believe me. I just know that thing couldn't have been human. It couldn't have been. It looked human, but it just wasn't. I apologize, I've gotten ahead of myself. Let's not focus on that right now. Let's start from the very beginning. Typically, criminals of this sort tend to stalk and survey the homes of their victims. You spend time figuring out the schedules and patterns of behavior of their victims. Did you notice anything strange before this tragedy happened? Maybe a car suspiciously driving past your house repeatedly? Perhaps someone consistently looking at your property? Anything at all?
No, never.
Everything seems so normal.
I swear I didn't see anything like that.
I understand. Thank you. I would also like to mention, if at any time you require something to drink or eat during this interview, please tell me. We'll be happy to accommodate you.
I'm okay, thanks. If I put anything into my stomach, I'm afraid I'll just vomit again. My throat already hurts as it is.
Understood. Once again, you're being very brave. Please stay strong for your wife.
Please, call her Jackie.
Sure. Do it for Jackie, okay?
Yeah, for Jackie.
All right, thank you, Mr. Middleton. Now, going forward, I'm going to ask you to describe the events that happened last night. If at any point in time you feel uncomfortable, we can take a break. Do you understand?
I understand. I do.
Very well, let's proceed. According to your call with dispatch, the events unfolded at around 1:13 a.m. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Right. Now then, can you explain what exactly happened that night? I will ask you to be concise, but I will refrain from interrupting you. I'm all ears, okay?
All right. Well, Jackie and I were in bed, asleep. I remember waking up to the sound of thumping. I couldn't exactly place it, but I soon realized it was coming from underneath the bed. Jackie woke up right after that. I got out of bed and I looked at the floor. There was a fucking hand just sticking out from under the bed. It was a woman's hand. This whole time, the thumping from under the bed just continued and continued.
Was there anything on the hand? Any jewelry, any identifying scarring or tattoo?
No, nothing like that. It was just a pale hand. Jackie couldn't see it at the time, but she was already really freaked out by the bumping. I shouted at the person under the bed. I told them to come out. I heard a lot of shifting around, and the bumping immediately stopped. The hand stretched forward and clawed at the floor like it was dragging the rest of the body forward with it. Oh, Jesus.
You alright?
I can keep going. Please. I can do this.
Very well. Please continue.
It took a while for that thing to come all the way out. It looked like a nude woman, but it was so off. It couldn't have been human. There's no way. There's no way.
What do you mean? What made it appear so inhuman to you?
There was a long, stitched-up gash on her abdomen. Her eyes were so cloudy and gray, and it looked like tears were leaking out of them. She was nearly bald. Her head had only just a few short hairs sticking out of it. Oh God, the smell. She smelled like utter shit. And the way she moved. She didn't stand up at first. She just laid there on the floor and looked up at me. You have to believe me. That thing was not human. It was something else. I'm not crazy. I swear on my life I'm telling the truth.
I believe you. I do. You're doing a great job helping us now. Here, take some tissue. It's okay. You're doing great. Take your time, alright?
Thank you. I appreciate it. Please continue to believe me. What I'm about to say doesn't sound real, but it is. I promise it is.
I'm here for you. It's okay. Every detail matters.
Okay. She opened her lips while staring at me. She didn't move her mouth or move her lips or tongue. She just made this awful noise. It sounded like an infant crying. Just that sound coming out from her lips. It isn't natural. It isn't human. The crying sound. Like if you took a recording of an infant crying and you looped it over and over again. It was the most horrific shit I've ever heard.
She didn't even move her mouth. You said it sounded as if it came from a recording? Did you happen to notice any audio playing devices on her person?
No. She was completely naked. She couldn't have hidden one anywhere. That sound, it was coming from her.
I understand. Please continue, if possible. What happened after that?
I just froze. I couldn't move a muscle. It was like having a sleep paralysis episode. My body was stiff as a rock, and she stood up and faced Jackie. Jackie must have been so scared. She couldn't move either. She just laid in bed with a look of horror on her face. Oh, God. I should have done something, but I couldn't. I felt completely numb.
It's understandable. Oftentimes we freeze up in horrifying moments. It isn't your fault.
I know, but this was different. This wasn't just me freezing up in fear. It was like nothing I've ever felt before. She was standing next to Jackie, and I think I'm gonna be sick. Please, can I just take a break? Please?
Of course. I'll take a 15-minute recess. You're doing your job fantastically. You deserve a break.
15 minutes pass.
Alright, we're now back in session. Mr. Middleton, are you comfortable with resuming where we left off?
Yeah, I am. I still feel sick, but I have to do this. I do. That monster stood next to Jackie, and it tore into her. It just dug its horrible fingers into her stomach and began ripping and clawing and it was so awful. There was so much screaming, so much blood. Oh my God. Jackie. Our poor baby. It was supposed to be our baby. He was supposed to be alive. He was supposed to be named Jack. He was supposed to be alive and our baby, and that fucking monster just took him from us. It clawed its way inside and ripped Jackie open and tore out our child.
Please, Mr. Middleton, I know you must be hurting. Please stay focused, or you'll upset yourself further. What did the suspect do with the child?
She tore into her own abdomen. She tore her stitches apart and opened her own abdomen, her own womb, and she forced our baby inside of her. She fucking... Oh my God.
Mr. Middleton, our forensic crew didn't recover any DNA that might belong to the suspect as of yet. From the sound of it, she should have bled quite profusely inside of the room, based on your description. Wouldn't you think so?
I told you. She's not fucking human. She didn't even bleed. It was like just an empty cavity in her abdomen. And she stuffed our baby in there. My wife's dead. My unborn baby is dead. You think a human could have done something like this?
I think you're understandably upset by this event. I think that some details may be exaggerated or misunderstood in your head.
You don't believe me, do you?
Look, we are taking everything into account. We are truly trying to bring justice for you, Jackie, and Jack. We really are. We're going to consider your account going forward in our investigation. Your help is appreciated, Mr. Middleton.
Fine. Believe me or don't. But mark my words. When you find that fucker responsible for this, you'll see that it's only a vicious creature. Don't try to reason with it. Don't try to arrest it. Put a bullet in its fucking skull. You understand me?
Noted. Do you have anything more you'd like to add to the record?
Just kill it.
Alright. This marks the end of the recording at 9:27 a.m.
Funny how the official record is still being kept secret, These bastards know what they're doing. Every single interview with the husbands has consistent themes. No signs of forced entry into the home. Knocking under the bed. The man is unable to move. The description of the woman and the sounds she makes. What she does to those poor mothers and children. It's all consistent. Something horrible is happening in this town. The police and whatever agency is contracting them are all suppressing this information. I'm going to blow this whole thing wide open. I'm going to find out what's going on for the sake of our town. Know that this is not the final leak I will spread. Know that I am urging each of you to embrace the truth. Know that I am calling on each husband they try to threaten and bribe into silence to speak out. You all have a right to safety and transparency. This cannot continue. For the sake of our family and friends, Morefolk is a place of dignity. There's no room for gruesome murder and government corruption here. This will not be the last you hear of me. Signing off for now, Jay. Something horrible is happening in Morefolk. By Icy Dice. You know who this is. Sorry for the long wait, and thank you for your patience. Yes, this is the new email address, though the reason for that should be obvious. I have to hand it to the pigs. They're not as clueless as I believed. What I once thought were monkeys dressed in uniform flinging crap at the wall are actual monkeys using rudimentary tools to fling crap at the wall. I'll admit it's cute. Still, if Morefolk's finest thought that updating their firewalls, naming their files gibberish, and using mono-alphabetical substitution ciphers for their file text was enough to throw me off, they're sorely mistaken. For one, firewalls aren't as effective when I've left a backdoor in the system for free access. Seriously, it's not that difficult to get into something once you've already been inside before. Not to mention, you seriously thought that documenting stuff in some basic code would do the trick? That I wouldn't be able to convert it to plain text? At least do something a little sophisticated next time. Might I recommend studying some old telegrams from wartime and seeing how they did things? Seriously, your tech department should be paying me for the tutelage. Your cryptography is weak. The only thing I can give you credit for is that I haven't found any information on the unnamed agency referenced in your files. I assume their documents are catalogued in their own, entirely separate database, which isn't surprising. Still, the only reason another agency would be involved with you at all would be to order you around behind the scenes, like a bunch of lackeys you are. Regardless, that has no bearing on whether you can keep me out of your shit. I suspect you'll either throw out the system and start anew, or the more likely approach you'll take is to start cataloguing your documents in analog style. Don't know, don't care. I've already got enough as it is. To say that I've got a lot to drop on you all would be an understatement, and a severe one at that. Not everything is going to be shown right here and now, but in time all will be clear. I've been waiting patiently, meticulously crafting my strategy, waiting for the perfect moment to reappear. Such is the price of truth in a world run by breaking news and hastily woven narratives. There are always dozens, hundreds, even thousands of hands intricately drawing each needle through each thread. until a net of lies and misrepresentations have been constructed and cast. Cast upon what? You all the helpless fish adrift at sea, going where the tide takes you. Yet you are not helpless. There is a hand outstretched towards you, and it is my hand. I offer you access to the one thing more valuable than money or the security they try to bribe you with. I offer you access to reality. Reality is, regardless of who witnesses it. Therefore, the optimal way to deny one access to reality is to remove their ability to witness, to see, to observe, and to ogle the beautiful essence of truth. Think for a moment about what it is that best achieves the goal of restricting your perception of reality. What it is that is such an obfuscation, such as an obstruction, and such a danger. I'll tell you. It's the narratives. The news, the media, and the outlets all serve as distractions. Do not be so naive as to think that the news is on your side. They actively serve the interests of the authorities and their agendas, and once you become privy to that fact, it's obvious. Still, you might find my claims to be dubious. So let's take a look together, shall we? Allow me to show you precisely what I'm talking about. Ellie Singleton, 33, found deceased in home. The body of Ellie Singleton, 33, was found unresponsive in her home on Monday, January 23rd, 2023. Authorities arrived on the scene shortly after her husband, Barry Singleton, reported an incident that occurred that Monday night, around 4:47 a.m. Although emergency services were quick to the scene, she was regrettably announced dead upon arrival at Morefolk Town Hospital at 5:09 a.m. Detective Clark Casper, who arrived at the scene shortly following the incident, declined to comment. So too did Barry Singleton. Although the nature of this incident remains highly unknown, its impact on our community is not lost on anyone. Plenty of tears were shed among friends, family, and loved ones, who all shared their sympathies with Mr. Singleton. Ellie Singleton was expected to deliver her first child in the summer of this year. She very much had a love for children, and it wasn't uncommon for her to work as a substitute teacher at Morefolk Elementary. Many of the young students she taught and influenced took part in laying down flowers and paying their respects at the school, which hosted a memorial assembly in her honor. Ellie stood as a pillar of this community, doing what she could to ensure the future generations had a reliable shoulder to lean on. Now her community stands as one, hearts torn apart for the Singleton family. This will surely be a day of much mourning and prayer. Innocent enough, right? Just a heartfelt news clipping in response to a horrific happening. A good old unifier of the people to get them through a trying time. Aside from that, there's not much to go off. Granted, this was the first that we know to be murders. Let's continue. Tragedy strikes as 25-year-old Sasha Baker was found dead in her bedroom. Onlookers littered the streets as Sasha Baker, 25, was peacefully wheeled out of her home the other night on Saturday, January 29th, 2013. Mothers, fathers, and children held hands in solemn silence as they watched, burdened with the great loss of their friend. It just doesn't make sense. She was young and healthy and happy. I can't even wrap my head around it, said Chuck Rivera, a longtime friend of Sasha Baker. This kind of thing doesn't happen in this town. It just doesn't, commented Ashley Sanchez, who was so disturbed by the death that she had to be comforted by those around her. Morefolk police released a brief statement following the occurrence, with Sheriff Tom Mackey being quoted as saying, "We want you to know that our hearts are heavy, and this loss is weighing down on us all of us. Sasha was a great woman. From the food pantries she hosted inside the church, to all the service work she did for our town, she always served as a positive influence on our youth. To us, she was a family, a bright and optimistic woman we grew up alongside. Our thoughts and prayers go out to David Baker, and to any and all who are undoubtedly hurting at this time. We will be conducting an investigation into this incident, absolutely. I cannot confirm anything to you with certainty, but we have reason to believe that, well, this incident may have been the product of foul play. The chances of that being the case are low. Still, our officers are working diligently to ensure that this was not the cause of her death, because that, well, it would be heart-wrenching for us all, even more than it is already. We'll do what we can to keep all of you updated. Thank you for your time, and God bless you. At this time, it is unspecified whether this event has any relation to the death of the late Ellie Singleton, who was found deceased in her home just a week prior. Would you look at that? Do you know what I see? Useless fucking platitudes. Thoughts and prayers don't mean shit to us. Not to mention how vague Sheriff Mackey was about this supposed investigation they were hosting. They peacefully wheeled her body out of her home. Perhaps it appeared that way with several white cloths and EMTs blocking the view of her corpse. I'm not entirely sure how the word peaceful could be applied to the remains of a woman who had her unborn child violently ripped out. Nor am I sure how there could be any ambiguity as to whether she was murdered or not. Now you go ahead and wonder why it is that they're using such passive and evasive language. Something tells me that you already know the answer. Homicide investigation launched following the murder of Claire Summers. Town officials have confirmed that Morefolk police are investigating the untimely death of Claire Summers, 28, which occurred on Wednesday, February 2nd, 2023 as a homicide. We are deeply disturbed by the passing of Claire Summers. The shock and sadness we are all going through cannot be understated. This is not an easy time for anybody, stated Sheriff Mackey, when asked for a comment about the recent development. Our investigators' assessment of her death indicates to us that, regrettably, this was the result of a sick individual rather than a horrible accident or medical issue, continued Mackey. This revelation also came with an announcement from town officials that a curfew has been set in place. All citizens are to stay indoors after 9:30 p.m., and all exceptions must be preemptively requested. Failure to abide by this regulation will be met with detainment, and offending persons may face criminal charges. The investigation into Claire Summers' murder will incorporate the recently deceased citizens of Morefolk, Ellie Singleton, Sasha Baker, as police suspect those incidents may be related to this one. As of this moment, Kyle Summers has declined to comment. Claire Summers, perhaps most well known for her bakery located on Oak Way, will be remembered as sweetly as the goods she lovingly shared with us all. Not a single person would disagree that when in Claire's shop, smiles were formed and memories were made. 3 people had to die for them to announce that they were being murdered. 3 whole people. Suppose for a moment that you don't believe me or my leaks. That you don't believe that this was all the doing of a wretched ghoul with sadistic tendencies. Is it not still strange that it took this long for a homicide investigation to be publicly launched? Each death took place inside one of the victims' homes, while their husbands were sleeping in the same bed as them. Are we meant to believe that a killer did their dirty work, and that the husbands just didn't notice? Seriously? These fucking rats in blue think you're all idiots. They think that you won't connect the dots. Don't let them treat you like clueless animals. Do not allow them to be evasive about what's truly happening. Morefolk police patrolling the streets in response to most recent death. The killing of Jackie Middleton, 37, has unsettled Morefolk to its very core. Her death is another in a series of murders, now that the deaths of Claire Summers, Sasha Baker, and Ellie Singleton have been found to be connected. Morefolk police have decided to patrol the streets at night in response to the recent development, and the town curfew has been lowered to 9 p.m. The safety of our town is a priority. We not only need to protect those of you living here, but find and prosecute whichever twisted individual is responsible for these crimes as soon as possible. We ask that you all cooperate with our curfew, and please, if you have any information that may be helpful to this case, contact us. Thank you. Sheriff Mackey explained when asked about his plan moving forward. When asked to comment on this tragedy, Jackie's husband Craig Middleton was quoted as saying, "There's not much for me to say at this time. The amount of hurt and devastation I'm going through can't be articulated. All I can say is that I hope our police force brings whoever did this to my family to justice." Furthermore, Kyle Summers, David Baker, and Barry Singleton requested to make a joint comment. The three men had also recently lost their loving wives, likely at the hands of the suspected killer involved in Jackie Middleton's murder. We've gotten together to support each other as of late. Things have been unimaginably hard to get through each day, but the condolences and support of all of you wonderful people have made it more manageable for us. We know we cannot change what happened, but we can and must address this problem before more lives are taken. Throughout these long, sleepless weeks, we've had the unequivocal support of the Morefolk Police Department. They have shown us great attention, care, and consideration. Most importantly, we know and trust that they will bring this murderer to justice. Please support and believe in them, because they're all doing what they can to fix this mess. Once again, we thank you for all the love and kindness you've given us. You all truly exemplify what it means to be wonderful neighbors, friends, and family. Jackie Middleton has always been an outgoing neighbor, working with Craig out of their small ice cream parlor on the nearby boardwalk. She'd often supply ice cream to the nearby business for office parties and other celebratory events. Though store-bought ice cream would do the trick in a pinch, there was always something special about her delicious desserts that she made with the utmost love. To Morefolk, Jackie Middleton truly was the cherry on the top. They aren't even trying to hide it, are they? Surely you all caught it as well. Surely the husbands who have gone without comment for so long all come together to give a statement. A statement with a takeaway message of trusting the police department. Want to know an interesting little tidbit of information? The author of all those newspaper clippings is the same person. Guess who it was? Does the name Phil Pratt ring a bell? Morefolk's beloved journalist, who happens to be married to Jamie Pratt. As in common knowledge, Jamie Pratt's maiden name is Jamie Mackey. These articles were written by the sheriff's son-in-law. I couldn't make this shit up. Still, I know what you're thinking. It doesn't matter who wrote those articles and what biases they have. That doesn't mean the contents of the text themselves aren't perfectly rational. Of course the husbands took a while to comment. They've been through so much trauma. Obviously, they all came forward together because they've got something in common to commiserate over. They're serving as each other's support system, right? Sure, it all sounds plausible at first. But the more you think about it, the more what I'm saying adds up. Remember, the husbands weren't allowed to stay at their homes because their houses became crime scenes. Plenty of neighbors and family members offered them places to stay, but do you know where they ended up? That's right. they ended up staying at the police station. Yeah, I know the reason given is that the police wanted to ensure the husbands were receiving attention to their mental health. But then, why not have them stay at a hospital? Then there's the explanation that the police wanted them close by so they could aid the investigation. Still, is that something that would require them to eat, sleep, and drink at the station for almost all hours of the day? That doesn't add up, does it? I'll tell you the real reason that accounts for these abnormalities. The police were keeping the husbands there to monitor them, to ensure that they weren't freely spreading their stories, to prevent them from commenting on the situation until they could be fed a comment generated by the pigs themselves. You should also consider the fact that, despite these husbands having been in close proximity to their wives at the time of their killings, they were never once considered suspects in the case. What could possibly account for that, other than the fact that the cops knew that someone else, or something else, was responsible from the very beginning? Some of you won't ever believe me, and I acknowledge that. That doesn't take away from the fact that this whole debacle has been handled so unconventionally. We've been told that the police would keep us updated on their investigations, but what have they really given us? We've received no identifiable suspect, no autopsy report of the deceased victims, and the newspaper is more focused on selling the bullshit unify and support the police narrative than focusing on the particulars of the deaths themselves. Go ahead and tell me we're being kept in the dark for the sake of investigation confidentiality. Tell me I'm seeking to divide us and push some communist anti-police agenda in the midst of a community tragedy. Claim that I'm making mountains out of molehills. Here's all I have to say. Either you're with me, the people and the truth, or you're going to be a mindless sheep, licking the boots of those keeping the real facts at bay. The time is coming to make a damn choice. Don't worry, I've got so much more to share. I'm not done exposing the hidden truths I found in the police files I cracked. I'm simply waiting for the most opportune time to release more of what I have. Be patient, my friends. It will be worth it. Trust me, after you see what's coming next, you will be as angry as I am. This monster terrorizing our town isn't going to stop at pregnant women and their unborn children. After all, it already has claimed more than just those sets of victims. You all might be aware that little Dennis Bowers went missing within the last week. Guess what? They're lying to you about what happened to him. All of it is connected, and I know just when and where to show you. The next time you hear from me, it'll be in a different medium. Something big is about to happen. I'm certain of it. Signing off, Jay. 15 years ago. That's how long it's been since I was elected into my first term as sheriff. That's how long it's been since I took up the mantle and took it upon myself to protect and serve this community. I understand this position is more than just a uniform and a badge. Rather, it's a commitment I do not take lightly. Right now, Morefolk and its people have found themselves in a time of crisis. I'm positive you are all aware of what I'm referring to, and I don't intend to beat around the bush. You all deserve my respect and trust in return for that very same respect and trust you put into me. The deaths of Ellie, Sasha, Claire, and Jackie are deaths that occurred under my term. The term which I earned off the promises I made that I would protect all of you. I failed that promise. I failed the very women who were integral to this community that I failed to protect. The very women I called my friends. But you're not here to give me pity. You're not here for a remembrance ceremony with me as the speaker, giving accounts of my memories with the victims. No, you aren't here for that, and neither am I. I'm here to remind you and remind myself that there are two parts to the promise I made to you as sheriff. I also promised that in the event that I was unable to protect you, I would do everything in my power to find justice for this community. That if something were to go awry, I wouldn't sleep until I could make things right. I failed on fulfilling my first promise to the people of Morefolk. I'll be damned if I failed on my second promise. I'd like to introduce Detective Clark Casper, who is actively leading the homicide case our department has been working on. He's going to fill you in on our progress and plans moving forward. Please lend him your ears. All right. Thanks, Sheriff Mackey. I'll take it from here. Ladies and gentlemen, please feel free to refer to me as Clark. There's no need for formalities at a time like this. I just want to thank you for listening in on our briefing today, be it those of you who showed up in person or those of you listening at home. Quite frankly, it shows a level of care and strength that you should be proud of. We're all going through some real bad times, so listen up. Here's what's going on. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. The rate at which these murders are occurring is alarming. We're talking about a prolific serial killer who's planning and carrying out their killings at a pace rarely seen. Well, anywhere, really. Even more worrying is that they're not sloppy. This individual is covering up their tracks real well. They aren't leaving strands of hair, fingerprints, or blood. Hell, we can't even tell how they're getting into people's homes. The point is, we're a small town dealing with something huge. This has grown beyond us now. You may have noticed it already, but we're pulling in help from country and state police. FBI, too. Yeah, we're pulling in the big guns. Look, I get it. We're a tight-knit community that doesn't like when outsiders get involved with our affairs. You have to understand this transcends our pride at this point. Look around you. Look at the people you grew up with, went to school with, and played ball in the street with. Which one of them could be next? Do you want to be one of the 6 carrying their caskets in the funeral? Didn't think so. I'm just telling you guys how it is. You know how I am. Not really one for euphemisms. We need the extra manpower to help us patrol the streets at night. Like it or not, our deputies are just a few good men who can't do it all. We need the brains and brawn for the sake of providing extra investigational and security resources to this community. Now, don't be alarmed. We've taken the steps necessary to ensure all this doesn't blow up and get leaked to the entire nation. We aren't going to have a bunch of nosy journalists and true crime fanatics racing down here to shove microphones into our faces. We're going to handle this and nothing more because that's our damn job. Now, I'd like to speak on something that I'm sure has been eating away at you all. Yes, Dennis Bowers is missing. Yes, we are actively searching for him. Yes, we are inviting all of you to join us in the search party over the course of however long it takes to find him. Please don't get the wrong idea. I may be a homicide detective, but my involvement in this case does not mean we are treating him as deceased. It's entirely possible he simply ran off and got lost. He's only being considered missing. And to be honest, our department and its detectives have had their hands so full as of late that we're kind of forced to take on multiple roles at the same time. Hence my involvement in this missing persons case. As I said earlier, we need extra manpower, and we're getting it. Just as a reminder, he's 5 years old, 3 feet 6 inches tall, with brown eyes and blonde hair. If you'd like to aid us in our search for Dennis Bowers, We're going to start combing the woods just north of Morefolk's Park, where he was last seen before going. Oh, they're speaking about little Dennis Bowers. How interesting. They don't know what happened to him yet. They're treating him as just missing? How interesting. I wonder if they knew what I was in possession of before they announced such a dirty little fib. How about we listen to a little song and dance, shall we? That's what I like to call it, anyway. Others might call it a piece of performative art. A truth seeker, however, might go so far as to label it a confession hidden in plain sight. Feeling all right, pretty? You look a little pale there. Don't patronize me, fuckface. Good to see you still an ass. Here I was thinking you'd be a useless 1,000-yard staring quack. And here I was thinking you'd be too busy sitting behind a desk scribbling on paper like vegetable you are, to talk as much shit as you do. Vegetable? Funny. You know, I was thinking I'd never have to pick up your alcoholic ass off the road ever again. But here we are. At least this time you weren't face down ass up in a puddle of your own vomit. Guess you're improving, huh? They ever teach you bastards respect the vets? Must have missed that lesson. Which period was that one? Maybe somewhere between the being a useful member of society and the being damn good at my job classes I was too busy taking whilst you were wanking at your desk. Wanna make a little wager? What's that? How many facial bones do you think I could shatter after I reach across the table and bitch smack you? How scary. Don't know. Wanna make a counter wager? Huh? What's the probability that the sound of you slapping me sends you into a series of war flashbacks so brutal that I have to jam an anti-PTSD EpiPen into your thigh? Good to see you again, Clark. I wish you could say the same, but you were real fucked up last night. I'm getting worried about you. I mean, more than I already was. You know, it's fine. Had a little too much to drink. Shit happens. Yeah, shit happens. Flaking on a date because you forgot is shit happening. Tripping over someone's foot at the movie theater when trying to refill your popcorn is shit happening. Ending up drunk on the side of the road isn't. That's different. It's more than, you know. I get it. Thanks for picking me up. You and the guys have been real good to me at the station. You know I appreciate that. There you go again, avoiding the big problem that's obvious to everyone else. Yeah, well, it's my problem to deal with. It becomes everyone else's problem when every other week you're somewhere shouting outside in the middle of the night or stumbling around someone's house speaking nonsense. You know that. And now, with this, with you passing out in the street? I mean, what if someone didn't see you and ran you over? What then? Then they'd have a pretty big dent in their car and a cool story to tell their friends. You're such a fucking moron. I never asked a goddamn soul to care about what the fuck I do. That isn't how this works. This isn't how any of this works. People don't care because you ask them to. They care because that's what people do. Well, fuck them. That's their damn problem. So what, you just gonna drink yourself to death? Is that it? Hell of a fun way to go out, ain't it? Yeah, pretty. Liver failure is so awesome. What a lovely way to be remembered. On my back, Clark, you're right. Liver failure isn't awesome. What I really needed was to get my body torn apart by bullets in a shithole country fighting a war I never asked for. That's where all the real glorious deaths are, huh? It's not what I mean. No, it's okay. You're absolutely right, Clark. Why did you think of that? I should have gone out there and stepped on a fucking landmine and gotten both my legs blown sky high. Maybe that way I could have gotten a pretty little medal put on my tombstone. They sure don't give those out to men who died from alcohol poisoning. No, sir. I know what you've been through. But you can't sit here and lecture me on death. Not like this. Not after what I've seen. Oh, sure, you and I are the same, cut from the same cloth. You and me are walking on the same path, ain't we? See, my path had the glorious privilege of seeing Private Steele catch a bullet right between his eyebrows. You remember little Landon Steele, don't you? The run of his family, always carrying a chip on his shoulder. Always used to hang around with us during lunch. I tell you, he never did outgrow those buck teeth of his. You should have seen how they looked when stained all red after he threw his life away for mine. Now that was a sight to behold. You think that's what? Here's what I think. I think it was great. He died with real honor and courage, didn't he? The military took me and that boy and made us proper soldiers. Who the hell even is little Landon Steele? That's Private Steele to me. Actually, scratch that. That ain't Private Steele no more. That's a goddamn statistic now. At least his gravestone got a pretty little celebration, right? I think that's enough. What's enough? Enough's a funny word, ain't it? What's enough when it comes to killing the enemy? What's enough when it comes to the amount of blood on your hands? What's enough when it comes to how many drinks it takes you to forget what you've done and what you've seen? You're a good man, Clark. That being said, don't pretend to understand. Seeing the kind of death you've seen is a nightmare. Seeing the kind of death I've seen is hell. At least you can wake up. You always were quite the speaker, you know? Aren't I? My mama used to say so. Her and your dad would have been, don't bullshit me. Yeah, sorry. Look, can you just let me get one thing clear before your next little rant? Whatever, go for it. You may not care about yourself anymore, and I can't force you to. But I'm not gonna let you rot away like this. I get it. And you've lost a lot of friends and family. You feel isolated and alone. You're a detective, not a goddamn therapist. Shut the fuck up! I'm gonna say what I need to say! Well, shit, look who grew up here. Look. I know you're not the same guy I grew up with. That's okay, I'm not the same kid either. People grow and change. Such is life. But there's a difference between change and self-destruction. You got your own demons and I got mine. You're right, I can understand your demons. That doesn't mean you can't have my support in facing them. You know my number. Next time you think about hitting the bottle, take a second to think about calling me. That's all I'm asking for. Just a moment of hesitation on your end. If you can do that for me, then I promise I'll do what I can for you. So will the guys and gals at the station. I'm sorry this country failed you. I sure as hell won't. Guess I'm not the only one who can give a speech. The drama classes were among my favorites. Yeah, I know. You wouldn't stop trying to drag me to them. Right. So, do we have an understanding? Fine, it'll help you sleep at night. Thanks, pretty. Fuck you. You know I wouldn't even be bothering hearing anyone else out on shit like this. Yeah, I know. That's just how charming I am. Much it. Alright. So, with that out of the way, how's your hangover feeling? You mostly over it? It hurts a little still, but otherwise I'm fine. Good to hear. Well, I want you to know you're not in any trouble. We're gonna make sure you get to your apartment all fresh and safe and the like. Though there is one more thing I wanted to ask you about, if you don't mind. Speak up, man. I ain't got all day. Right, well, when I picked you up, you were completely out of it. I mean, obviously. However, there was something strange you kept mumbling about, and I just wanted to ask you about it to make sure you were okay. Does the phrase, the woman in the pit, mean anything to you? Oh, that? It's just some dumbass nightmare or hallucination I had, I don't know. Okay. Would you mind telling me about it? I'd appreciate it, really. What's the matter to you? I just ranted to you about care and compassion and all that bullshit. Let me show you concern just one last time today, and I'll let you be on your way. Yeah, whatever. Look, before I went onto the street and blacked out, I was just walking through the woods. Real good pissing trees in those woods, you know? What? Pissing trees. Trees you piss on. Alcohol makes you piss. Okay, just continue. Yeah, well, I was walking through the woods and heard this noise. It sounded like crying to me. Like a banshee just wailing her heart out. To be honest, I was mostly just pissed off because it was annoying the hell out of me. I was gonna head over there and tell the bitch to shut up. Well, did you find the woman? Yeah, of course I did. She was in a weird place. I found this, what's it called again? A hatch? Yeah, a hatch in the ground. I could hear the lady crying from underneath it. So what did you do? What do you think? I went inside so I could tell her to shut up and let me piss on my pissin' trees and piss in peace. Oh yeah, as any sane person would. Shut up, smartass. As I was saying, I went down there, but it was too dark to see. But you know, kept my trusty lighter on me. Flicked that bad boy out and held up the flame. I tell you what, though, I was not expecting to see what I did. And what was that? Well, I found the woman. At least, I assumed that's what she was. It was difficult to locate her. She wouldn't stop her crying and moaning. Thing was, she didn't look like any ordinary woman I'd seen. Keep in mind, a lighter flame ain't all that bright, so I had to get up close to really make her out. And how did she appear? She had this pale skin like she'd never seen the sun before. She was nearly bald, had this massive cut on her stomach. Looked like it was recently sewn shut, too. That sounds pretty frightening. You got up close to her and took in all that? Most people would have booked it. Yeah, well, to tell you the truth, I was kind of disoriented. I was stumbling around and nauseous as it was. When I got up close to her, I didn't even really know what the fuck I was looking at. I was mostly just really confused. That makes sense. So what then? And, I didn't notice this at first. The longer I looked at her, and the longer I heard the crying, the more my eyes began to water. I was getting goosebumps, man. I started breathing faster, too. I'd seen some vile shit before, both on the battlefield and in my nightmares, but I've never felt just as anxious as I did in that moment. But it got worse. Worse? How so? I was so focused on her at first that I didn't notice them. But eventually I did. There were these things. 4 little bloody, fleshy things. I couldn't really tell what they were just dead. I thought I saw little hands and fingers on them, I know what the scent of a rotting corpse is like. As soon as I saw those things, that's exactly what I smelled. What were these things doing? What were they doing? They're all just underneath the woman's, shit. They're all around her breasts. I think they had their mouths on her nipples, but they weren't moving, and nothing was being fed to them. Jesus, that's pretty. There's one more. What? There's one more of those bloody, fleshy things. What are you? This one was different. Larger. A bit larger than the others. I'm sorry, It wasn't underneath her breasts like the others. It was I think it was coming out of... I mean, I think she was giving birth to it. Giving birth? Yeah. She was pushing it out. Like a baby. But it was too big. Far too big. Her pussy was rupturing and just... Fuck, it was messy. Yeah, I could see the head sticking out of her. Christ. Yeah. Its head, those were the only parts of it that didn't look just mangled. So you mean, it looked recognizable to a degree? Yeah, I think I saw a scalp. As in, yeah, a scalp. With blonde hair. This is a lot. You're telling me. What do you... I ran like my life fucking depended on it. I ran to the street and kept running until I could only walk, and then I walked until I could only crawl, and then... Well, you know the rest. The whole time, I could just hear her fucking crying in my mind. That must have been incredibly surreal for you. No shit, Sherlock. Hey, no need to invoke the name of my lessons. Good one, cunt. You're quite welcome. Now, about that shit you just described to me, it was some kind of damn fever dream, nothing more. And I like to forget about it whilst I still have the chance. Fair enough. Though, if you don't mind me asking, do you remember where in the woods you saw this, hatch? The hell do you think, asshole? Enough said. It's wild to think what a mind is capable of showing us, whether it be hallucinations or nightmares. It's a scary thing. I just wonder why I had those visions specifically. I think we both know the answer to that. Yeah, you're probably right. You've been getting the emails too, haven't you? You've been getting the emails too, haven't you? From that Jay guy? Yeah, I have. God, the shit that guy spews is unbelievable. We've been trying to track him down, but it hasn't been easy. The point is, he put some really, really bizarre ideas into your mind. Into everyone's mind, really. Thank the Lord most of our neighbors have enough sense not to take him seriously. Though, now and then, I get the sense that some people give him too much credibility. Some nights a station gets egged, other nights people in the shadows shout obscenities at our deputies before running off. Juvenile shit if you ask me. So what? So, I'm saying that when introducing insane supernatural bullshit to the mind of someone like you, who's prone to over-drinking and suffers from mental lapses, it isn't unbelievable that something like this would happen. You're a douchebag. It's my job. Yeah, well, I hate to admit that I agree with you. Probably better for my sanity anyways. Is that all? Can I stop talking about this now? Yeah, of course. You need your rest. I'll drive you back to your apartment, my They noticed. They're trying to take the broadcast off air. I'm not finished yet. Have patience. 4 babies down, 4 pregnant women down. Yet, there is a 5th. Death continues. Why? Isn't it obvious? When a predator has run out of prey, it must find new prey to satiate its appetite. Who knows just how far it will go to adapt? Morefolk police, you know the truth. I know you know. I know you know why this thing is here. I know you know the cause. I know you were protecting the man responsible for bringing this plague upon us. You thought I wouldn't find out, but I did. Oh, how easy it is to get the information I want. Still, I am merciful. Come forward. Come clean. or I will come forward for you. You know who I am. You know what I am capable of. Signing off, Jay. Hello, Morefolk. Once again, I'm here in standard email format. There's no doubt in my mind that the string of disappearances as of late has you all in a state of worry. Susie Chandler, Miranda Bishop, and Colton Brandywine all vanished without a trace under the age of 6. You don't need to have what occurred explained to you. You know. Or maybe you don't. Knowing would require that you believe me. Many of you don't. I understand why. I'm sorry. I owe you an apology, Morefolk. I've really fucked things up. I know how I've sounded in the last few entries, like a crazed lunatic, desperate to be heard. Drip-feeding information that you had a right to be delivered all at once. Spending long periods of time musing and insulting the Morefolk Police Department, covering information that doesn't serve to further my message, but rather serves to put myself on a pedestal. Such juvenile, immature behavior. Those kinds of actions don't make me seem trustworthy, I'm aware. I really do apologize. I've been careless, thinking I'm more clever than I really am. I thought that I had it all handled from the beginning. I couldn't have been more incorrect. I've been far too sloppy. I think they've gotten to me. Gotten to me well before I realized what was happening. I say they because I still don't know who they are. I do know, however, what they've done to me. Have you ever been in an episode of mania? The state of mind where you're not yourself, but you don't even realize it until the episode is ended. That's the closest thing I can come to accurately describing what I've been through. As far back as my second message to you all, I'd felt strange. A feeling of untouchability, as if I alone were in charge of some greater purpose. To be some form of conqueror. Not simply wishing to indulge in victory, but in the humiliation of some vague notion of enemy. That notion, of course, manifested in the form of the Morefolk Police Department. From that point forward, sending out my message became ecstasy, a form of high that could only be maintained by becoming bolder, embellishing my actions with theatrics and arrogance. No longer was I satisfied with showing you all the truth. Now I had to speak of my opposition as if they were rats. Then no longer was I satisfied with simply that. I had to broadcast my message, make it bigger, better, give a show that nobody will ever forget. At what expense, though? I have no doubt that any of you have stopped reading by now, or at the cusp of doing so. I beg you to continue, just this once. I will explain what happened to me. I promise to do so, but I need time. Time to create a full understanding of what transpired. It was a while ago that I started having strange dreams. Images of being somewhere dark, somewhere cramped. Sounds of screaming, and the sensation of being somewhere wet. I'd feel myself being pushed somewhere outside of my control. As I approached the end of the dark tunnel, the sight of light nearly blinded me. It was as if I was staring into the very sun. The screams would grow louder, and the dream would end as soon as I would emerge from the darkness and into the light. These dreams were reoccurring, happening pretty much every night. It was so vivid, so detailed, so lucid, and didn't resemble anything I'd ever experienced before. That wasn't all, though. Soon I would realize the objects around the house would change locations overnight. Maybe a pair of keys would shift from the dresser to the kitchen table, or a glass from my kitchen cupboard would be sitting in the sink, even though I knew for a fact it wasn't there before. After a few times of it happening, I would snap photos of the interior of my house before I'd go to bed, just so I could be sure that it wasn't my mind playing tricks on me. Guess what? It verified my suspicions. At first, I thought that someone was breaking into my house, but it didn't make sense. To break in multiple times and not actually take anything? I should have seen it as an immediate red flag, but I just had this strange feeling of superiority, just like I described earlier. Like a kid who doesn't even have a concept of danger. My mental state would begin to worsen over time. I'd find myself being constantly agitated over nothing, scratching at my own skin. The sensation of bugs crawling on me made me itch constantly, so much so that I doused myself entirely in bug spray until I was dripping wet, and even that didn't solve the problem. Do you understand how horrible that is? I couldn't grasp why this was happening, why I was experiencing these things. Simultaneously, my dreams grew worse. I would no longer wake up after entering the light. Instead, I would scream as some strange, viscous liquid coated my eyes. My hands would grab at my stomach, slicing off something that was attached to it. Then I would be lifted and held against something. I could feel fingers grasp my shoulder as I was held. Then, and only then, would I awake. Awake to find small, finger-like dents on my shoulder. Days, weeks, even months felt like they sloshed together. My agitation grew until I drew blood and stored dead skin under my fingernails. Things moved around more frequently. My bedroom window would be wide open in the morning. It took so long for it to click in my deluded mind that something was going on. Something that shouldn't. That's when I decided to install cameras around the interior of my home. I decided to figure it all out myself. However, what I found would confuse me. The cameras captured nothing. There was no motion sensed inside my home. No captured visuals of someone breaking in. Yet I would still awaken to find my possessions displaced and my windows wide open. I think they've been fucking with me. Of course, they saw the cameras. They were so obviously placed. I think they managed to find a way to doctor the footage somehow, to edit it such that their presence was undetected, so they could continue to torment me. If they could track me down and find me so quickly, they've got to be sophisticated enough to mess with the camera footage, right? So I placed cameras in places I figured nobody would ever check. Under vent covers, inside the microwave, inside my pillowcase. That way I could at least capture some audio of their entry with cameras they wouldn't be able to access and tamper with, right? Wrong. They never picked up anything strange at all. No sound of windows opening, no shuffling of feet. Nothing. These guys were good. I hate to admit it, but I may have been in over my head. I tried to convince myself I was fine, that I could handle this. Please, Morefolk. Please just try and forgive me. You can see what they're doing, right? Messing with me, not to mention these dreams and my erratic behavior. I think that they're leaking some sort of gas into my room as I slept, hence the open window. I swear my mind wasn't like this before. I have no record of behavior like what I've displayed in prior messages to you all. There's got to be something external, and this kind of thing isn't likely the doing of the Morefolk police. It has to be something more, something greater. Perhaps the agency the police are working with. The very ones I have yet to be able to uncover. I wondered why they would do this to me. Why not just kill me if they could locate me? Though I think I know why. They don't want me to become a martyr. That's it, right? You can kill a man, but that won't kill his message. They're killing my message, aren't they? Right, that's it. That's what they're doing. I eventually decided to move locations, but I don't think that was anything more than a temporary fix. My agitation, my state of mind, it all feels so weird. Holding on to my thoughts is difficult. I think they found me again. My dreams still continue to get worse. Just like before, I am pushed through the darkness and held into unknown hands. Then I blink. I'll be standing, facing a wall. There would be this rotted, wooden hatch on the wall, as if the surface were hollow. It would smell so horrifically. Black spots of mold etched into the hatch like a messy pimple. I take a step forward, then another, trying to resist the sound of wailing from within, though I could only take a few steps toward it before I woke up. I would make more progress each time. Ultimately, I did reach the entrance to the hatch, and I pulled on the lever opening the wall to the abyss before me. That's when I woke up. It didn't go away. The open hatch remains there beckoning me. I tried to step foot inside, but I couldn't. Not in time, anyway, before she emerged from it instead. She smelled putrid and her body was bare. Such disheveled hair, such leathery skin. I saw the gash across her stomach, traces of blood along the stitch thread. Her stomach itself, though, was bloated, unnaturally so. The fabric of her skin was stretched to the very limit, threatening to tear apart at their seams. She walked so awkwardly, like she had no sense of balance. God, I could see the outline of limbs within her. They were all there, crammed back inside, but inside nonetheless. No words can describe how my mind raced upon viewing her. I hated seeing her that way. How she hosted such a monstrous appearance. It wasn't her fault that she ended up that way. Not at all. She approached me slowly, reaching down with her long, splintered fingernails and dug into her own abdomen. Her fingers lacked coordination as they sloppily but eventually poked and stabbed into the stitches clinging her skin together like a zipper. As she intruded into her body, she didn't bleed, but that didn't stop blood from leaking out of her. The blood of others. The blood of them. All of them trapped inside there were released onto the floor in front of me as if her stomach had vomited them out like chewed up food. Truth be told, they didn't look far off from that description. The infants were the lucky ones. They had the luxury of dying quickly. Their bodies seemed more compact, so as to make room for the other occupants that were inside of her. Though, that could apply to all of them. Their heads, their skulls, caved in and flattened to limit the space they take. The toddlers and small children weren't so lucky as to die quickly, though. Their tortured faces made that evident. Their stomachs and thighs and rears, the fatty areas of their bodies, had been carved and stripped of meat. Their arms and legs had been messily removed as well, disposed of like bone removed from a chicken breast. What she did to them, I could hardly believe it. I cried. I sobbed, holding absolutely nothing back. I think what did it for me were her eyes. The woman's eyes just haunted me. They were calm, perfectly, serenely calm. No longer did she cry. Her eyes were utterly relaxed, This was what she wanted, to collect them. She was presenting them to me like her trophies. No, like her children. She crouched down beside the bodies, caressing and kissing them tenderly. She didn't know she had hurt them. She thought they were her babies. She looked up at me, and I sat down from across her, and we stared into each other's eyes as if we were somehow communicating. Her gaze held no ill will or malice. It was as if she recognized me as her, well, as someone who meant her no harm, and who only wished to fix the situation. She had to have seen me that way, right? After all I've gone through, after risking my health and safety to expose the truth to the public. Not just save the people of Morefolk, but her as well. I wish I hadn't let you all down. I wish I hadn't let her down as well. Not that it matters. I can't change the past. It isn't her fault she's a monster. She looked at me expectantly and began to lift up the children. She tried to hand them to me, to make me hold them. I resisted, though she remained persistent, gently pouting and pulling at my arm so I could cradle her babies. I closed my eyes tightly and rocked them, one by one, trying not to anger her. I only opened them again when I felt a tap on my forehead. She was smiling at me, ever so slightly, and took the children back for herself. She understood me, and I understood her. She just wanted children to regain her sense of motherhood, to recapture that sense of fulfillment that was taken from her. It isn't her fault she's a monster. She didn't mean to be one. Despite how real it all seemed, I expected to wake up at any minute. That moment never did arrive. She remained coddling and feeding the children at all hours of the day. I don't understand why she's still here. Not because I'm still under the illusion that she's purely in my mind. In the sense that I don't get what's keeping her here, in this plane of life. She's gotten the children she's craved. The only other connection must be... Jesus Christ. Like I said in my prior message to you all, I know who's responsible for all of this, for her being here in the first place. I know that the police have been covering them, pushing all the misdeeds of the past under the rug. I know who it is. And I have been expecting to force them into the spotlight by now. That is, until something unexpected happened. I talked to them, and then they ended up admitting it. All of it. I didn't expect it at all, knowing the kind of things they did, the gross, horrific actions they partook in, which I fully believed led up to this point. I talked to them. Through indirect communication, of course, but I talked to them nonetheless, and they explained their actions and regrets, knowing full well I'd be recording. They even plan on going public soon and stepping down from their position. I made a promise, didn't I? That I'd come forward with the information if the police didn't. To hear that the guilty person in question will come forward, taking the opportunity I gave them, they'll not only validate everything I've said, but potentially release this woman from this earth so that we can all move on. Won't that be enough? Won't it? I thought it would be. That lasted until she began whispering to me at night, preventing me from sleeping. She tells me that she hurts inside, that she hates that man for what he did, that he needs to be punished. She tells me how her heart aches, of the loneliness she feels constantly. She describes how horrible it is that the man who ruined her life gets to live his as normal, flashing smiles of being friendly with others, continuing on a respected life as she suffers in silence. Silence which, until she found me again, she had no chance of breaking. To simply weep and find children to care for was the only option offered to her. What if exposing the truth isn't enough? What if that doesn't satisfy her? What if she continues killing? Could I really live with myself if that were the case? Every day she stays here, another day I am risking her taking another life. Is that risk possibly worth taking? The whispers won't stop. Her breath tickles my ear like a gentle wind. She and her children occupy my bed at night, holding me tightly with them. They're all so very cold. The whispers continue further. Every day my head grows fuzzier. I feel myself sinking back into that feeling that tore apart my credibility. Things are once more swapping places inside my house during the dead of night. I won't let them screw with me again. I have to act quickly. Whatever choice I make, it needs to be made soon. She isn't whispering anymore. She's screaming right into my ear. She's telling me to hate the man who destroyed her, that I, of all people, should understand that it's the only way things can return to normal. She shrieks so loudly that it feels like my ears are shredding. Is it really the only choice I have? To do something awful to someone I've spoken to who regrets his past choices? Is it fair? What if he's really changed? What if he's not defined by his past actions? Isn't he owed some ability to be redeemed? Surely he didn't intend for things to end up this way, right? He couldn't have possibly foreseen all of this. Yet, she doesn't care. She tells me that what's fair to him won't heal her wounded soul, that his redemption can't possibly redeem her. Is she right? Maybe she's right, I think. She's so right. Maybe it isn't a matter of fairness. Life isn't fair. Life definitely wasn't fair for her, nor will it be fair to him, or me, or the pregnant women as well as the children who have fallen victim to her so far. What's fair may no longer matter. Perhaps it's now a matter of necessity instead, doing what I need to do even if it hurts, even if I wish there were another way. Waiting for that man to come clean, however soon it may be, will only risk more lives. I can't take that risk, especially if waiting means I fall back into the mania that claimed me. I have a gun I keep in my bedroom dresser. I can use it. I can fix this. I have to fix this. Maybe I'll survive. Maybe I won't. I'm so sorry, Morefolk. I don't have time to explain everything. Every second is too precious to waste. Whether I live or not, you will hear from me one final time. There's a video that's been processing that will be spread to all of you regardless of if I'm there to send it. It will explain a lot, I promise. You'll see what I mean if or when it comes to that. Ironic, I know, to leave things somewhat incomplete yet again, for what may be a final time. I offer my sincerest apologies. My actions will speak for me. That's a guarantee. For too long I have failed as a truth-teller. I became careless and paid the price for it. Where I failed then, I won't fail now. Please, for one final time, believe in me. J. Here, Morefolk, is what I promised. The video that will explain what has come to pass. Whether I survived or died as a product of my endeavors. You have been sent this file which will transcend my mortality. No narcissistic rambles this time. No shit spewing, no fluff. Whether you have followed along with me or not, whether you sympathize with me or not, this is it. What I pray to be my final note to Morefolk. J. Start of audio transcription.
Saw my camera activate a couple of minutes ago. How long are you gonna watch before speaking up, creepy bastard? You're smart, detective. Yes, I've been monitoring you. So, you're masking yourself with a voice changer plug-in. Disappointing. I figured it'd be a bold one. Hacking broadcasts and now my private computer. You know all this is illegal, right? Scrap that stupid question. Of course you do. Irrelevant of all that. You know why I'm here. Why I'm doing this. You and the station pigs have been hiding something, haven't you? Something deep. Something dark. A gross lie that's kept, lest the glue holding this town together would wither away into dust. Feeling poetic, aren't you? Even when pulling shit out of your ass, you still make it sound cryptic. Didn't you recently send an email apologizing for how much of an attention seeker you are? Already walking back on it now. I know your type. You lot can't help yourselves. You can only ramp it up, creating more hype for yourself to feel whatever thrill you're chasing. And what is my type, detective? Those who oppose lies, injustice, and cruelty. Those who stand above the tidal wave of unfairness and abuse, firm like a tree, unwavering in belief. Don't kid yourself. You ain't a prophet. Just a shit stirrer. Wanna know something, Jay? I know a lot more about you than you think. I mean, hell, I'm a damn homicide detective. Psychologically profiling freaks like you is in my pay grade. Give me a moment. I'm gonna sip my coffee. Had a long day. You know nothing about me. If you did, you'd be trembling with... And that's a good cup of joe. Where was I? Right, the psychological profile of a man-child like yourself. Listen, your speciality is tech. We've obviously been trying to locate you by tracing information you might leave behind post-firewall intrusions. Clearly, we've not had that much success. Why are you telling me this? To point out the obvious. You have your passion. I have mine. Your mistake was thinking yourself untouchable so long as you secured yourself in the realm of technology. But I see you for what you are. A scared child doing all he can to claim a sense of power. Your emails, your broadcast hijacks, your fake empathy for the people of Morefolk. You don't care, do you? It's all a facade, and that's got me thinking. Your ramblings stop it. I'm more than what you claim me to be. Don't try and reduce me to something so basic. Are you now? I mean, shit. I was chatting with our tech department the other day. Maybe you're right. Maybe I'm not giving you enough credit. 'Cause honestly, despite how much of a roach you are, the tech folk were impressed with your capabilities. Really impressed. And here I was like, shit, this guy is good, isn't he? But something didn't add up. This is a small town, man. A small town where technology isn't exactly something we focus in teaching. Hell, most of our tech people are out-of-towners who moved in after learning their trade somewhere else. Somewhere fancier. That and your fake empathy and shit-stirring you displayed. It's clear to me you don't have connections or regard to this place. You ain't from here, are you? And so what? You suspect I'm not from here, so everything I'm showing the people is a lie? Nah, not just that. I suspect you ain't from here, but that wasn't the end point of my thought process. I mean, why the ever-loving fuck would someone not from this town go out of their way to frame themselves as a resident? Why would they deliver confusing, potentially hysteria-inducing messages? Coincidentally, after a series of unprecedented murders began, mind you. Call me crazy, but that sounds malicious. The things you've done, they're not just a harmless prank. You're trying to obstruct justice. Tell me, Jay, why would an outsider try to obstruct justice regarding a murder case within a town he has no residency in? You have a horse in this race, don't you? A nice theory, I'll give you that. Is that your plan now? To string together a motivation for me to be a murderer? An explanation stuck together with spit and gum riding on the shoulders of your armchair psychology? Oh, but you fail to understand, Jay. We're gonna sniff you out. And we're gonna hit you with the full extent of the law. You were under the impression that we had no leads, but we always did. You kept giving them to us after all. And no, they weren't in the form of some creature your sick mind made up. You're a stranger tampering with an investigation. With your ability with technology and your level of planning, you also demonstrate the skill and patience to pull off these killings. You fit the bill more than any other soul in this damn town. If that's the case, how do you explain the monster woman? What is she if it's been me all along? Who's to say? How you did it will come in time. Maybe we'll get a confession. Perhaps you drugged the victims and made them more susceptible to your suggestions. They saw what you wanted them to see. Hell, you could have a weird skin suit with zippers to add to the illusion, placing the children inside those pockets whilst the parents see something more monstrous. However it is you're doing this, we'll find out. Trust in that. You think you're so smart, don't you? Sitting here and mundanifying this with your excuses and rationalizations. Assholes like you who deny what's truly happening are part of why these deaths have continued. But don't worry, detective. I will show you that you have a much bigger role to play in this. All this cruelty, all this horror, it's your fault. Save it, guy. You're growing more and more confident, but you'll only become more and more sloppy. Ever heard of fucking the pooch? You did it. Yeah, I've heard it. In many ways, I did fuck the pooch. But I could never have fucked up as much as you did. So tell me, detective. Ever heard of Jill Olsen? I'm sorry? You heard me, detective. Do you know... I don't know what the hell this is, and I certainly don't know who the hell you're referring to. Jill Olsen, detective. The twitch of your eye lets me know very well of your current attitude. How you never expected to hear that name again. It makes your skin crawl, doesn't it? Look, asshole, I'm not here to play games. I'm cutting off this conversation if you're just gonna waste my time with pointless questions. Very odd, detective. Here I was under the impression that building a psychological profile was your forte. Was I mistaken? Or have the recent developments rendered you nervous? I am not in a position to disclose encounters I've had with individuals, especially not with people like you. Ah. So you went from not knowing who that was to not being willing to talk about who it is. How weird, considering Jill Olsen has no case in your station's database. No, she hasn't been involved with the Morefolk police at all. So how do we both know who she is, detective? Are you there, detective? What do you want? We want the truth, detective. She wasn't anybody. She was just some woman who passed through Morefolk. I caught her walking through the town and she looked lost and confused and I checked on her. Made sure she was safe and okay, not up to trouble and... You sound worried, detective. Why are you so defensive over such an insignificant interaction? Whatever you're trying to do, it's not working. You got that? What is it you told your old pal Pretty, Detective? Everyone has demons, including yourself. From the looks of it, your demons still haunt you. And now they haunt Morefolk itself due to your sheer cowardice. And what are your demons, Jay? What are you, some lonely, attention-deprived criminal with a thirst for disorder? What demons led you to our town where you decided to play God? She was not a demon, Detective. She was simply a victim of the one monster whose eyes I look into here and now. You made her as she is in the present. You know it, and I know it. You made her. Jill Olsen, I believe at the time you two crossed paths. She was 25, no? Are you insinuating that somehow my engagement with some random out-of-the-towner turned into all this? Some freaking nature monster preying on innocence? You sound insane. You need help, Jay. Serious help. 25, yes. 25, but you could hardly tell based on how thin she was. Thin as the strands of hair atop her head. Thin as the scars on her arms and body. You're not even making sense. Do you hear yourself? Whatever psychosis you're in, you need to be dragged out of it. You're a danger to yourself and others, Jay. Please let me help you. I know you've seen how me and the guys at the station help Pretty. You know we care. You know we don't just want people to suffer in their own misery. Please, where can we find you? Tell me before you do something you regret. You don't wish for the people to suffer in their own misery. Is that your logic? Was that your logic when Jill Olsen wandered into this forsaken town? When was that? January 23rd, 2003. 20 years on the dot, Casper. 20 fucking years. Even the days are the same. January 23rd. 20 years? Wait, you can't be serious. Even still, there were some details I don't know. Of course, I wouldn't know. I wasn't there. But you were. Out alone on that street with her in the middle of the night. How glossy were her eyes, Detective? Were the track marks on her arms to your liking? I suppose the syringes weren't a turn-off, at least not enough of one anyway. Do you think this is a joke? What is this? I don't need this shit right now. Sit, Detective. A man as smart as you was likely able to tell. She was barely conscious, wasn't she? Being in that kind of state can get someone into a lot of trouble. And as a man of the law, bringing her in would have been your responsibility. That's not what happened, though, was it? I don't know what you're talking. And yet, you won't turn off the computer. You know what this is. Your day of reckoning. The day in which your demons claw their way out from the hatch and emerge to confront you face to face. There's a reason Jill Olsen never faced charges for her addiction. Someone offered her an out. Isn't that right, Detective? A get-out-of-jail-free card. A quid pro quo. She was just a stranger. I didn't do anything. I was young and inexperienced and stupid, okay? You got me. I let her off the hook when I should have taken her in and got her the help she needed. Are you happy? Were you really so benevolent, Detective? Or did you demand compensation for your act of charity? Did you feel powerful, violating her that night? Did it make you feel good to take her as yours? Did her saying yes to you in that state of desperation and fear grant you all the justification you needed? It wasn't like that. How dare you accuse me of something like this? Everyone saw how I was with Pretty. You showed them. Showed them how I treat people who are going through their worst moments. I'm not a goddamn monster. Do you treat him that way as an act of kindness, or as a means of scrubbing away the filth within you? Doing it just so that in moments like these, be it when I confront you, or when you have to confront yourself as you lay alone in bed, you have a way of pushing that guilt down and out of sight and out of mind. The whole town would never believe her, and you knew that. Even if she did return with a complaint, nobody would trust a drugged-up outsider over you. They'd side with your story, and lie to themselves about what really happened. How you abused her. How you assaulted her. Don't say that. I didn't do that thing. It wasn't like that. She offered it to me. She made advances on me, and I tried to tell her no and push her off, but she didn't listen. Was it worth it, Detective? A few short moments of satisfaction at the expense of a life? A troubled life, but a life all the same. Did you even know she later died? Found collapsed and unresponsive just a few towns over, only a couple of days after what you did. Were you even aware? Did it ever cross your mind? Or was she just some tainted meat to you? Yeah, I was fucking aware. Look, you think I'm proud of this shit? It never happened again. Never, and I did so fucking much for this town. I've served as detective for 2 decades, you hear me? Hard fucking work to keep everyone safe, to look after those who needed it. I'm not a monster. I'm a good man who made a mistake. I can't change the past. Nobody can. You can't change the past, yet you're making the choice to actively hide from it. The fact that you're living your life as you please, comfortable and safe, is proof enough that you're no different now from who you were then. If you really gave a fuck, you'd have stepped down and confessed your sins long before having your hand forced like this. She shouldn't have even been in town. What business did she even have here? What could she have possibly wanted? She was sick in the head, wandering aimlessly like a zombie. You think I meant any harm? I didn't mean it. It's been 20 years. And here you are, doing nothing as everyone suffers from your choice. Of what relevance is her having been in this town? Perhaps it was senseless, but it doesn't explain why you chose to do what you did. She had a child. Did you know? A little boy, barely old enough to walk. Lord knows how he felt after never seeing his mother again. Not that he'd remember much, thank God. Even still, a child will know when something is wrong, despite not being able to capture what it is. It can stick with them, last for years and years, boiling up under the surface before bursting like a pipe. I never knew. You're not lying, are you? She's real, isn't she? You're telling the truth. Yeah, I am. Now there's only one question that remains unanswered. One more question worth asking that will determine if there's any value left within the meaningless husk you call yourself. What am I going to do? You'll never be redeemed. You're a disgusting piece of shit that will rot in hell when it's all said and done. Her blood is on your hands. The blood of the women and children that's been spilled stains you as well. You took an oath to serve justice and protect the people. In many ways, we have both failed to achieve this. I'm ready to do what is needed to reconcile this great disappointment. Are you, detective? That's it, isn't it? This is how to stop her. To come clean willingly to face my punishment. If that's what needs to be done, I guess that's it, right?
Look, I'm sorry.
The time for apologies has ended. You defined yourself by your actions once. Do it again. She demands it.
Fine. I'll get it set up. I promise.
You understand the repercussions of lying to me, yes?
What, she'll kill me?
No. More people will die because of you.
I figured as much. Just promise me she'll be gone after this. She'll leave this town alone, right?
As far as I'm aware, yes.
And there's nothing else to discuss.
And so be it. Do not disappoint me.
The detective has confessed to me. Whether that sick man is doing this out of a sense of duty or a selfish desire to save his own arse and feel good about himself, I don't care. All that is of importance is what she decides. I only hope that I've made the right decision to save her and to save this town. In the end, I suppose that whatever agency is out there is pleased with the result. The two loose ends of this mess tied up in a neat little bow. A sacrifice I'll gladly make for the sake of truth and justice. Throughout all the lies and half-truths, I have always wanted what was best. For all of us. Now it's time to follow through on that want. Much like I told the detective, we are defined by our actions. That's how it'll always be. Before I part, although I do not expect to return from this, let one thing be completely, utterly clear. I would not, nor will I ever, take my life. The rotten bastards will have to earn the privilege of seeing me dead. Farewell for the last time. J. Beloved Morefolk Detective Clark Casper found killed in home. It is with much regret that I inform you that Detective Clark Casper, age 45, was found killed in his home Wednesday night. After neighbors reported hearing several gunshots, police arrived at the scene to find Clark Casper gravely wounded. Despite the best efforts of emergency services, he was pronounced dead upon arrival at Morefolk Hospital. Also at the scene was the body of an unidentified subject who is believed to have been Clark Casper's assailant. The subject was found dead at the scene, seemingly killed through a self-inflicted gunshot wound according to investigators. No form of identification was found on the individual, and no public attempts to identify the subject will be made as a product of their grisly state. It is believed that the assailant did not come alone, as a pair of small female footprints were discovered at the scene of the crime. Morefolk police are diligently working in tandem with the state police and the FBI to cross-reference these prints for any matches. Although this tragedy is sudden and shocking, Morefolk police urge the public to not jump to any sudden conclusions. Whether the deceased assailant has ties to the serial harasser known as J is currently unclear. The public is simply asked to continue showing support to the police force, as well as the friends and family of Detective Clark Casper during this solemn time. As a man who truly exemplified virtue and selflessness was lost, but not one person would ever forget him and his infectiously cheerful attitude. God rest your soul, Clark Casper. Phil Pratt.